Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So today we have another round of game journalist related drama to cover. Just when you thought these game journalists couldn't get any more pathetic and unprofessional, they do something even worse. And today's story is a shocking one, a journalist going after the family members of a YouTuber who criticized their work and online behavior. And it probably doesn't surprise you that this journalist works for Kotaku, who is struggling for any relevancy at this point. You can see their Twitter account has nearly 3 million followers, and yet their recent articles are struggling to get 20 likes in the span of 20 hours. And if you look at the data, it adds up. Their relevancy is completely gone. In fact, their traffic is at an all-time low, despite being in daily controversies due to the actions of some of their contributors, like Alyssa here, who once again is under the microscope because of some insane behavior she has been making. Now, you can see before we get into this, she recently added a blue check mark to her name. That means that she is paying for Twitter, meaning she gets a share of ad revenue when people look at her account and her tweets. This is something that happened very recently because this screenshot right here was from only a few days ago, and you can see there was no blue check mark. So if you're going to talk about her on Twitter, make sure to use screenshots instead of directly engaging with her tweets to avoid giving her a few pennies here and there. Now, she is very well known for unhinged behavior, spending months on end defending racism against people based on the color of their skin, inciting violence against certain types of people, so on and so forth. And this has been all for the love of the game, by the way. She is not even monetized up until recently, so this was just for attention. Now, her recent beef involves a YouTuber by the name of Smash JT. Now, this beef begins with a different YouTuber who Alyssa claims is threatening their life because of these jokes this person has made about killing her in virtual reality. Now, it's very ironic to see game journalists supporting this and claiming these are true threats when we've seen other YouTubers and content creators get threats on their lives, and those were dismissed as jokes. Recently, we've seen Mark Kern, who calls out censorship and game journalists all the time, get a 20K bounty on his head. In fact, that would be double down when a streamer would up it to 30,000 against Mark Kern and Asmongold. In fact, even today, we have seen another bounty placed on Mark Kern's head, which insinuates they want someone to take their life. In fact, even further, on another post putting a bounty on Mark Kern's head, you can see Alyssa down here gleefully replying and saying that she's going to DM this individual who eventually deleted their tweet. Now, returning to this, the reason Alyssa has an issue with JT is that she believes that he is platforming and putting a threat and inciting violence on her life by pointing out this quote retweet by JT here where he uses the hashtag #EndKotaku, which is obviously a reference to Kotaku the business and hoping that they fall apart because they deserve it due to their terrible work. And Alyssa would clarify in other tweets that she not only claims that this person was platforming some dangerous individual, specifically talking to JT, she is saying that his use of the #EndKotaku hashtag is inciting violence. Alyssa, let me show you what inciting violence actually looks like. Here is your tweet from less than 2 months ago saying this: I maintain that most people who are shitty, aggressive, racist, sexist, otherwise terrible online have yet to get their asses beat IRL, and they should. So basically, Alyssa is saying all of these types that she deems, by the way, including just bad people, should have physical violence inflicted upon them in real life. That is inciting violence, especially when you're saying people like JT are bad people. You're claiming that, and also, on the other hand, saying people like that should be physically attacked in real life. In fact, you've done this before in another post from a few years ago saying that white people should get physically assaulted on the regular. Again, saying a group of people based on the color of their skin should be physically assaulted. That looks like inciting violence a lot more than a #EndKotaku hashtag being shared on Twitter. Now, of course, JT would start laughing off this whole situation, saying, "Never thought I'd get so much pleasure over Alyssa spurging out about me, but here we are." where eventually he says that she slid into his DMs and he's like, no, I'm married, get out of here, which is the fairest response to someone like Alyssa approaching you, where she responds directly to him saying, so you think it's funny that you platformed a man threatening to kill me? And when she got aired on this one, she would get even more mad with this tweet saying, anyway, I found your wife's Facebook and asked what she thinks about the father of her children harassing a woman online and laughing when she shares that someone they're supporting has been threatening to kill them for weeks. Of course, it always goes back to she's a woman and that's why people are attacking her, which is ridiculous. People are attacking you because of the merit of your character and your terrible work as a Kotaku journalist. And you can see, this is the next level. Now we're contacting the family members of people that are criticizing others online. This is way too far. This is unhinged behavior. This has nothing to do with your job. This is all personal. You want to go out and try to ruin the lives and the families of people who dare to call out your shoddy work. In fact, this behavior is not surprising at all with Alyssa, because we saw with the Sweet Baby Inc. situation, in her attempt to cover the situation, very biasly by the way, she infiltrated the Discord server for the Sweet Baby Inc. detected Steam group and were asking people for their real names and pictures to use for what I would probably assume are nefarious purposes, like she's been doing with the subject of today's video. And going forward, the ultimate irony of the situation is that they're trying to call out these supposed threats on the lives of people like Alyssa. Meanwhile, you can see other members of the industry responding to her comments about reaching out to this man's wife on Facebook by going off and then threatening people based on that comment by Alyssa. You can see this individual who is a game developer down here saying, I mean, if I turn into a total piece of shit and start harassing women online, then yeah, go nuts, when referring to the possibility that someone might do this to them as well. And then in a further reply, this Paul Scott Canavan individual from the gaming industry would say this is absolutely the play. We should be doing this with all these weird creeps. Track down their significant others and mothers and string them up. Not only invade into their personal lives to harass them, but string them up, which a lot of people would interpret that as a threat, a physical, violent threat against them. Not just the YouTubers criticizing them, but their families as well. There's no other way that string them up is ever taken other than a violent threat. There is no other explanation, but of course, Paul Scott Canavan, in his infinite wisdom, would dismiss criticism of that by saying, I think you may have misunderstood. The conversation was about holding people accountable for their attacks on the internet. I don't think it's a super controversial take. To him, it's not a super controversial take to say string up people when referring to a critic's family. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Now it's jokes, huh? It's just jokes. And he didn't think it was too funny eventually when he would private his account and hide. And I wonder what all of these companies would think about this individual saying these egregious things about YouTubers and their families. But going back to Alyssa's comments about the Facebook contact here, JT would share this saying, at Kotaku, one of your writers, Alyssa, is currently harassing me and is now DMing my wife on Facebook. This is completely unacceptable behavior and way out of bounds, reprehensible. Do you stand by this type of behavior? And as always, I just question, what does this do for Kotaku? Why would they want one of their employees doing this stuff? It doesn't promote more articles because nobody's clicking on these articles. This is all personal feud that is making Kotaku look bad. Nobody's clicking on the articles and their reputation keeps sinking further and further. Why do you keep allowing your employees to do this unhinged behavior that has nothing to do with journalism and has everything to do with petty battles that they're committing against other people on social media? But going forward, JT would explain to people asked, how'd your wife respond? He says, she wasn't a fan of my YouTube stuff spilling into our personal lives, but at the same time, she could tell right off the bat that the person DMing her was unhinged as F. And going forward, he would also say, I just had to explain to my wife why you hired a former sex worker that has become an unhinged activist posing as a journalist, referring to Kotaku hiring her, of course. And don't feel too bad about this comment that this person is making here, because Alyssa has time and time again gleefully exclaimed that she is a former cam girl and has tried to use that as some kind of an own on the gamer chuds that she's feuding with on Twitter, which is okay. But moving forward, she would reply directly to JT's tweet calling her out saying, "You retweeted a man who has been threatening to kill me for weeks with the hashtag #EndKotaku. You didn't apologize when I pointed it out to you. Instead, you jokingly replied with your petition to end Kotaku." Very base, by the way. "I pity her and your children." Absolute low blow for no reason, because Alyssa can't form actual arguments. The only thing she can do is harass, name call, and apparently contact the families of people that she doesn't like. But moving forward, Alyssa, good luck with the game guides, as Kotaku will be requiring you to do. And it doesn't end there. Not good times for Kotaku right now. As Mark Kern reports here, Kotaku has laid off 4 more staff, one of whom wrote the Stellar Blades Eve is hottest when she's not revealing everything. Oh, tough times for Kotaku. Another round of layoffs, which, by the way, they have a very small team. So laying off 4 people, very big deal. And you can see the individual who was let go, or one of them, saying, "Well, G/O Media, the management company of Kotaku, laid me off along with 3 other video folks, all of whom are my good friends. It was a turbulent ride with a shitty ending, but despite the ups and downs, I'm proud of what I've done. Now I'm going to go cry." So yeah, it's going to be tough times without some banger articles like this. You know, one of his infamous articles titled, "Hilarious Final Fantasy VII Mod Transforms Aerith, Tifa, and Yuffie into Muscle Mommies." And also, keep in mind, this was their swan song. This was their final article before being laid off. And of course, that's the one that Mark Kern was referring to, where they celebrate the censorship of Eve from Stellar Blade, claiming that she's even more attractive now that she has more clothes and less of her skin being revealed. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Kotaku is in dire straits at the moment, and really they have no one to blame but themselves. As a company, they can't blame anyone but themselves for hiring some of these unhinged individuals, and the actual writers at Kotaku have no one to blame but themselves for the shoddy work that they make, and also their completely unhinged behavior online that is making themselves and their company look bad to their own detriment, because nobody is clicking on these articles, and Kotaku can do everything they can in their power to monetize their humiliation fetishes. They can put basically fill up every pixel on their articles with ads to try to generate as much pennies as possible, but it's not working. And it's clear based on the traffic disappearing from their site, and also the fact that they're routinely doing layoffs, the end might be near for Kotaku, and hashtags like #EndKotaku, well, they seem pretty accurate because they're doing it to themselves, and the end certainly seems near, and nobody is going to feel sorry for these people when they're out of a job at Kotaku, and if Kotaku eventually dissolves. But that's going to do it for this video. As always, I appreciate you guys giving it a listen. Feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.